I've interviewed several women who are considered pioneers in wrestling, trailblazers, whatnot. And one thing I do get quite often is they say, like, I don't want to be a pioneer. I would much rather have just come along now that there's all this talent in wrestling. I wanted to have come along now. So from your standpoint, are you more proud to be considered a pioneer, or would you rather have come along now that you see just all this talent, the most talent that women's wrestling has ever had, really?
Right. That's a good question. I love where women's wrestling is right now. I mean, especially just to see from where we started and to be along for that whole ride to see where the knockouts division is now. Of course, there are so many women, not just in our company, across the board in the industry, so many talented women that I would have loved to have worked with, but I truly believe that that's something that would continuously go on forever. You know, there's always going to be someone, I'm sure, just like Undertaker, there's always going to be someone that he'll see and be like, wow, that person is so talented, if only we could have worked together in our prime. And I've had that thought many, many times, but I'm very satisfied with the road that was traveled. I guess it is a little bit more special to me to have broken out in a time when women's wrestling wasn't so, hyped up as it is now and as big as it is now. So I wouldn't change a thing. I don't think I would change a thing.
You mentioned some of the names that you look around and say you wanted to have a match with. Is there any name that comes to mind repeatedly, or is something that sticks out in terms of a match that you would have liked to have with the current talent today?
Oh man, there's so many girls. Like, let's just take ours. I mean, I don't want to pick any other girls, but like specifically on the roster. But let's look at the title match that we have for Bound for Glory, which is Deonna Purrazzo and Kylie Ray. Like, those are two people I've never faced. They are what's hot in our generation right now. I mean, they're at the title match at Bound for Glory, and I expect nothing but for them to steal the show, to be honest. Those are absolutely two girls that I would love to have gotten in the ring with. And of course, there's the obvious ones like a Sasha Banks or Charlotte Flair or Bayley or any of those girls, Asuka. There's just so many girls, even on the indie scene. There's so many companies to work for now that a lot of these girls, even when they have potential, are hired. But even so, with all these opportunities, I still see a lot of girls with so much potential and bright futures when I look at any shows on the indies, when I'm watching a Shimmer or a Rise or anything like that. One of my favorite things to do is to scope out the future talent.
Is there anybody on the scene today that we should be on the lookout for? Anybody up and coming who you think that we should keep an eye out for?
I mean, I feel like with our women's division, it's always been a place for redemption almost. Like Deonna Purrazzo is a perfect example of that. She was in NXT for many, many years, and she's been in wrestling a lot of years, and people never got a chance to see what she was fully capable of, and now we're actually seeing it. She's our champion. She's proving why she's our champion. And Kylie, her opponent, I mean, I have nothing but just so much praise. That girl, she was supposed to go to AEW, and that just didn't happen, and I guess that's what was not in the cards for her. But I'm so glad that she ended up at Impact Wrestling, because I do believe we've always been one of the cornerstones of this company. I believe that the knockouts division is one of the things that Impact Wrestling has always been known for. And even when you don't know who these girls are, maybe they didn't come from WWE or AEW, they came from the indies, we really do give them the platform to showcase their talents. And I feel like Impact has always been one of those places where you'll notice, I had this conversation with someone the other day who wanted to do a signing with one of our talents. And they're like, oh, so what are they doing lately on TV? Just for the marketability aspect. And I said, honestly, everyone on our roster is used. Everyone is used. Everyone's there. When they have to sign a contract and they have a job, they're going to be used. They're going to be used in storylines. They're going to be highlighted. They're going to be able to grow as themselves and who they. I always felt like when I worked in WWE, I always felt like I had to be the Gail Kim that they wanted me to be. Whereas when I worked in Impact, I always felt like I was just free to be me. And for me, that was a more positive environment to grow my skills and to really showcase what I can do.
Your career will always be connected to that of Awesome Kong with your guys' legendary matches that really launched the legitimate women's revolution in wrestling. And I think it's so poetic that here we are in 2020, and now Awesome Kong, Kia Stevens, is one of the stars of a mainstream scripted Emmy Award-winning show about women's wrestling. So I want to get your thoughts first on Glow. And do you still talk to Kia Stevens? Have you seen her performances on Glow?
Yes. Oh my gosh. I told her after I saw her in Glow, I said, you know what? You don't need to be in wrestling anymore. You should be just a full-blown actress. I mean, I truly thought she was a star. I thought she played the role great. She was a natural actress. And so it's great to see people from my generation who may, you know, a lot of us are not wrestling anymore. So it's great to see them move on. And she's still in wrestling from what I understand. But she's found another path. And I love seeing that for people who, you know, are either at the end of their careers or they can't wrestle anymore. So I love seeing people succeed.
Now, you've been very outspoken about race relations in wrestling and, you know, particularly WWE's treatment of minorities and whatnot. And, you know, it's a message that I completely stand by and have also tried to get out there as much as possible. In 2020, where do you think they are in terms of race relations and even race relations as a whole in wrestling? How far do you think we've come?
I feel like we've definitely made strides. Just like with women's wrestling, it's a very comparable situation, I would say, you know, in terms of gender equality. And I feel like, you know, the fans demand that. They want to see other wrestlers there. You know, we have fans internationally. I get tweets, emails, fan support, especially around, you know, April. We get to see a lot of international fans come into town when COVID wasn't around. And I'd meet fans from Europe, Australia, Africa, everywhere. And so, you know, people want to look at the screen and see someone maybe they can identify with in some way. It doesn't have to be their skin color, but, you know, identify with them, say, an LGBTQ wrestler. You know, I've run into so many people who are just so happy that now that's becoming a bigger thing. I think people just want to see a little bit of everything. There's always fans that like more entertainment. There's fans that like more of the sport of wrestling. And when you have people, more women's wrestling, that, to me, I love watching women's wrestling a little bit more. I'm a little bit biased. But I love that we can see more than one match now. We see 2 matches. We see main events from women. And they're killing it. And I don't see why we can't have that. There's another thing, you know, it's very, very rare that you might see recently, I guess. I would say recently only we've really seen more international women being seen as the face of the company. And those are the types of strides I think we should go towards.
Yeah, and to that point, Asuka is the Raw Women's Champion. What I think is so ironic is that you tell what I think is such a funny story in terms of WWE asking you every 6 months if you spoke Korean, and they wanted you to be from San Francisco, then all of a sudden you're from Korea, and they kept wanting you to speak Korean. Here we are with Asuka. I think one of the things with Asuka, you always knew she had charisma, but they forced her to speak English, which is not her first language. And then recently they've had her just speak her native language, and the charisma connects and it comes through. And I think that's one of the things that maybe hopefully they've learned from.
Yeah, I think, you know, I always believe in going with who the wrestler really feels naturally being. You know, are they, you know, Asuka could have been more comfortable speaking. That was the case for me. I said, I can't speak Korean, so it's going to come off not genuine. Just finding that comfort zone and letting you be able to expand off of that, your natural personality, I truly find always brings success. That it's almost like an extension of your personality, or a character that you just love to play and you know really well. And that's normally the formula for success.
Yeah, now came up when you first started working in Impact. You were with America's Most Wanted. You did a lot of interaction with the male wrestlers, and then you took the path of more straight women's wrestling. But now intergender wrestling has become so much more popular. I want to get your thoughts on the genre of intergender wrestler. Is that something in intergender wrestling that you ever considered, or maybe if you were wrestling today would want to take part in?
I think, I'm a little bit more traditional in that sense. I do believe that wrestling evolves, and it's something that there is an audience for. So for me personally, this is just my opinion, I don't mind seeing intergender wrestling as long as it makes sense, as long as the storyline is there, as long as it, to me, I think, as a special attraction, because I like watching females wrestle females. To me, that's more special. That's just my opinion. But I know a lot of fans who love to watch intergender wrestling, and it became kind of a little bit of a controversial topic on Twitter, I guess, a couple of months ago, and we're talking about it. And it's interesting to see, like, this generation loves it a lot more and would like to see it on a more regular basis. Mind you, I grew up 20 years ago in the wrestling business where it's a very rare thing, and I'm okay with that. So I'm more for it being a special thing. And for me, I have wrestled men in the past. I've done intergender matches. There might have been rules. I did one match, a singles match with Tigre and Uno for Impact Wrestling when we had the World Title Series. It was near the end of my career. And I liked it because we really told a great story out of it. And I think it really made sense as opposed to being, something that's thrown away, for example. I don't really love to see a guy just beating up on a girl with no storyline. And,
Right.
it has to mean something. It really needs to mean something. And look at Bound for Glory. Obviously, recently we had Tessa Blanchard be our champion, or actual champion, which was great to see. I thought it was something a little different. I loved that it was believable. She was a believable talent. To be our world champion, and I thought that was okay because it was just a history-making moment. It was something different. We're going with the times. Impact Wrestling was trying something new that no other wrestling company had ever done. So that's great. And now we're bringing Jordan Grace at Bound for Glory for the X Division title, and I think that's another situation where she's just a killer wrestler, and it's very believable to me that she can hang with these guys. So that's one of the matches that I'm really looking forward to is the X Division Championship, the six-way at Bound for Glory with Jordan, with Rohit, our champion, Willie Mack, TJP, Chris Bay, and Trey Miguel. That's going to be a good one.
That's so great. That was my next question, was going to be what match at Bound for Glory we're looking forward to the most. That's great. But I want to ask you